Might Satongwa you rue this day, but I concede, as long as I dwell in this form, I will be known as Pickles. I hope you fall on an axe.
You're a bold one, mortal. You're also a moron.
Alright, fools and Larrys, we're gonna get to that Nova, Arizona update later, but for now we're gonna start off in Goodsprings, where we begin with a quest in helping an old woman find her lost puppy.
Pickles, come here, boy. I got a treat for you. Have you seen my dog, Pickles?
This mod is called Shadow over Goodsprings. I just finished up this mod as the last one in my testing session, and I don't know what the I'm not too sure what I just experienced, but I'll do my best to summarize. The old woman who sends you to find her puppy, her name is Mr. Butterbutt or something like that, and eventually you end up at a cave. You go into that cave by walking through rocks, and inside you find a group of cultists who are summoning that lady's puppy, but it's not really a puppy, it's the image or the incarnation of Thmuthsla. The dog has a hilarious voice, and then you end up going and talking to a gnome in a pond, and he gives you a spelling test, and I learned that I'm not very good at spelling, but I know a little bit about Fallout lore, which was like a different question asked by a different person, and then the judge, I think his name is, and then you end up fighting him, but he cheats completely. So then I cheated back, and I killed the judge, and then I got to take Thmuthsla back to the lady, Joanne Butterbutt, and I gave her her dog back. But then if you read the Nexus page, you'll see that Joanne Butterbutt is really the devil. So I helped the devil get Thmuthsla back and beat the judge and passed a spelling test. I'll be upfront, this mod sucks. I think that's kind of the point though. It's like it sucks. It's fun and it sucks. It doesn't suck anything, but yeah. I don't think I'll play this one again. The voice acting, no offense, kind of bad. There's some mic popping going on with a lot of the dialogue. I'm sure if you check out a few of my older videos, you'll hear that too, so Glass House. Who knows, maybe even some in this video too, but the point is, I don't know, it's just really dialogue heavy, and I mean, some of the things that they're saying are not pleasant. You might not want to hear those things. It's like a little bit of like a gross shock for funny. It really doesn't fit into New Vegas at all. Like, you'll absolutely know you're playing a mod. That is the point though. Like, this is a meme mod. This is a joke. It's supposed to be funny, goofy, ridiculous. The dialogue is silly. There's voice modulators going on that have people talking really high pitched, like they just sucked down a bunch of helium, and then people with really low bassy pitched voices, and it's all over the place. But it's a short quest mod if you're looking for a laugh or something goofy, and you have a tolerance for a very obnoxious kind of humor, then have at it. It's almost mildly reminiscent of the Barbas or Barnabas quest from Skyrim with the talking dog that eventually leads you to Clavicus Vile. It's kinda like that. So if you want that quest from Skyrim in New Vegas, as far as I know, this is as close as you're getting. You may have noticed the weapon I used to defeat the judge from the last mod, and that would be a weapon from the mod Hit Explosives.
Nope.
This mod is an absolute must if you want to have an explosives-based playthrough. I feel that New Vegas is deeply lacking in this area of the game, and this mod is going to add in a ton of very functional, very usable weapons under the explosives category. What's even better is that these weapons look and sound amazing, and they are very well animated. They're going to be modern looking and feel really satisfying to use. My personal favorites from this mod were the various launchers, whether that be grenade launchers or missile launchers, which there are a series of for each, but there are also mines included throughout the mod and different grenades. These different mines and grenades aren't just different textures or different looking variants of what already exists in the game, they actually serve a different purpose. For instance, if you're familiar with claymores from Call of Duty, if you played back in the day, there's a directional mine. Then you also have the disposable rocket launcher, which I think is one of the most unique and interesting ideas for a weapon mod. I've never seen a mod that does something like this, where it's essentially a single-use weapon, kind of like a grenade, but you shoot it. Once you shoot the rocket launcher, your character then drops the husk on the ground. You can pick it up to rearm at a workbench later, or just leave it. Something like this is sort of small and maybe fits a niche use case, but I could see myself actually using something like this quite regularly, because I don't like lugging around the giant missile launchers and various other things from the vanilla game as is. The carry weight is too high. But with something like this, I could just pick this up having looted it in some area throughout the game, use it once, and then not have this constant inventory hoarding item that takes up too much space. Okay, so now let's get into that Nova Arizona update. There are a ton of changes featured on the changelog, and I'll talk about a couple of them. First of all, they added a massive map expansion in the east of their massive map expansion of the east, where several new locations and interiors were added and the smart array was moved. Beyond this, there have been a ton of bug fixes, consistency fixes. They changed a lot of the balancing, lowered health on some things, changed some weapons in some other areas. They also updated quests and certain dialogue pieces from certain NPCs. And just to be clear, there is no actual recorded dialogue. I'm just talking about the text dialogue. They've also included a significant amount of nav mesh updates to their world space, added new enemies including the Electro Beetle, Bombardier Beetle, and Blister Beetle. There's a whole bunch of other updates and specifics on the changelog on the Nexus site if you want to look through those, but I want to speak to the core of this mod a little bit and what it's actually providing, because it's pretty exciting, especially with this new update and how much progress they've made and how different the map feels, to be honest. So something I didn't really consider the first time I was covering this mod for some reason was where they were actually getting the inspiration for these locations. And just looking at a map quickly, I can already see some of the locations that they've put in the game, and they're based on real life locations such as Dolan Springs. This is something that perhaps isn't absolutely necessary, but is very much appreciated because of the efforts that the base game of New Vegas went to in terms of being as close of a recreation of the area that it's based on as it could be, while also fitting, the Fallout universe and changing it up a bit. So many of the locations in New Vegas are exact real life locations, and they're placed very, very similarly on the map. Obviously, things aren't exactly to scale, but if you're familiar with the New Vegas map, where the Strip is, where the Hoover Dam is, where Lake Mead is, where Mount Charleston is up with Jacobstown, you kind of actually have an idea of what that area of the world looks like in real life. I'm not saying the American Southwest looks like an apocalypse, I'm just saying on a map, if you know the locations in New Vegas and where they are on the map, you actually have a good understanding of where they sit on a real life map. So if the Arizona mod team here is able to maintain a comparable level of consistency with the real life locations, they'll not only have achieved something exceptional in expanding the base game map in a performance and stable friendly way, they'll also have done it in a way that mimics how the original New Vegas developers intended to make their own game, and had they created these areas, they would have had a similar process. Study the locations, look what actually goes where, and then start to fill in the game world. This grounds things in such a realistic way because it's based off of a real structural setup of towns and cities and roads, with roads in this mod being listed, such as 93, and they're doing this very similar to how New Vegas does it, where you have roads shown in game such as the I-15 or Route 95. This is not something that's commonplace in most video games, so for this mod effort to take this task on is pretty commendable. Fallout 3 doesn't do this. I just did a video that covers the roads that leave Fallout 3 if you want to check that out, and none of the roads in that game are labeled. This meant I had to do a whole lot more digging and relative guessing based on locations in game that mimic real life, because Bethesda didn't actually hold themselves to staying accountable within the bounds of the DC area. They were able to have a lot more creative control over the areas that they included within the game, because it's not meant to be such a close recreation as a game like New Vegas is, and how this mod is approaching its development as well. Another thing I wanted to note about this mod, and I would love it if a developer is watching and they could comment to this, it seems that this mod has taken inspiration in New Vegas by using objects in the distance, little visual carrots hung in the distance. If you think about New Vegas and every step you take along the beaten path, whether it be headed towards Prim and you see the roller coaster in the distance, the Mojave outpost with the two soldiers shaking hands, obviously Novak with Dinky the dinosaur, and the strip, and so on. There's so many examples throughout the game where they hang this like visual object off in the distance for you to look at and then walk towards. So despite New Vegas not being the most visually impressive game, it can still tantalize you on a visual level with clever development such as that. This mod seems to do a very similar thing, whether it be the overpass that is just across on this side of the Colorado, or you have this enormous radio tower type thing that beams red in the night and it looks amazing. You also have the satellite array that I mentioned earlier, which acts as a very similar visual carrot off in the distance. That one actually is beyond the bounds of the map, I believe, but still they sort of trail you around. They give you something to look at and something to pull you towards. So the mod seems to be remaining very consistent with the base game of New Vegas, which is clearly their intention, to expand upon that base game and stay consistent and make it seem like this is just supposed to be a part of the game. This is New Vegas plus, not New Vegas with a mod that has its own ideas of what video games should be like. This mod also goes to great lengths to make custom assets. There are unique looking buildings, unique looking interiors, unique looking objects placed throughout the world that are not from the base game of New Vegas. They fit the theme, but they don't just copy and place. And I'm not sure how intentional this was either, but I felt that the further I got away from the New Vegas game world, the more the map seemed to change. Gradually, don't get me wrong, it doesn't feel like you're walking on Pluto all of a sudden. The world feels a little bit different. It feels like you're in a different state, a different region geographically. It's important to note that this mod is not finished. It's in beta, it's a work in progress. There's also no voiced dialogue. There are quests, and I really like their approach to quests. One, within the dialogue and questing structure, you can tell they took inspiration from the base game, as well as information we know about Van Buren to expand upon the Legion. This is very similar to what the Dry Wells expansion mod that I covered recently does. This seems to be a growing subgenre of mods that restore Legion content, and they do so in a way that is as accurate as possible based on the New Vegas lore, as well as cut Van Buren content. This is really exciting because once this mod is complete, we'll have an entirely expanded game world that properly fleshes out the Legion. In fact, it'll probably do so more than the original intention even was for the New Vegas developers. There are quests, but like I said, there's no voice dialogue, so you'll be doing those all just by reading the text and going along with it. If that's something you're interested in, go for it, but currently this acts as a great way to expand upon the map and give you a lot more area to wander around and explore, and I think it does that in a quality way. So if you want to use the mod in its current form for that, go for it, but I think down the line, we're really going to see something special. Now let's answer the question, should you download this mod in its current iteration? And I think that really comes down to what you're looking to get out of this. Now, I think if you're playing an NCR playthrough or just a generally anti-Legion playthrough, this mod actually might be great for you in its current form. If you don't plan on participating in a lot of the quests and just plan on heading over there and killing a bunch of Legionnaires, this isn't a great place for you. However, if you're looking for the experience from this mod that gives you a fleshed out Legion playthrough, I don't know if it's quite in the state for that yet. That simply comes down to the lack of voice dialogue and the fact that it's still a work in progress. If I was looking for that full-on Legion playthrough, I think I might wait for a few more iterations and see what they update the mod with. I personally would not build a save game or an entire playthrough around this mod just yet, but I absolutely think it's worth checking out and exploring. There are almost no mods that do what this mod does. It's a very unique experience just having the New Vegas game world opened up like this. We have tons of quest mods, we have tons of world space mods, we have tons of mods that are remakes of old games and new engines, and we have mods that are just completely new games and existing engines, but this one just expands upon the base game of New Vegas in a really substantial way. I'm sure you noticed in some of the previous footage that I'm not using the standard Pipboy, I'm actually using the Pipboy Holo panel. I am absolutely never taking this mod out of my load order. I am never going back to the old Pipboy. I'm never watching the animation of the arm get pulled up anymore. I love this. I absolutely love this. It's fast, it's responsive, it's quick, it's efficient, it's everything you want. I might have gotten a bit excited, but this mod is awesome. I really like it. Some people are still going to prefer the Pipboy, and understandably, because it almost realistically integrates menus into the game so they make sense within the game world. Luckily, this mod will offer those people the option to just have this available when they're in power armor, so when you're outside of power armor, you'll get the normal Pipboy. Before we move too far away from Nova, Arizona, I also want to mention Lime's Fort Overhaul. I covered Lime's old Mormon fort in a previous video, so if you appreciated the quality in that mod, you'll enjoy this one as well. It's a subtle enhancement that just makes the space more interesting and feel more lived in. This is the kind of mod that you can add into your game and completely forget that you had it in your load order because of how seamless seamless it is. It feels like the renditions that he does, whether it be for the Fortification Hill spot for the Legion or the old Mormon fort, that it was just how it was always meant to be. Moving on, I want to make note of a weapon mod I've been using throughout the video, and that's 10mm SMG and Friends. This mod not only adds a really high quality replacer for the 10mm SMG, but it also makes the unique variants of it look actually unique. Instead of just acting as a replacer for the 10mm SMG, this really acts as a mini weapon pack that expands upon the 10mm SMG. You'll have different variants of it, obviously the unique variants, and just some other SMG type weapons throughout the game. As you can probably tell, they're also very well animated using kNVSE. Again, instead of just acting as a simple replacer, this mod hands you a nice little pack that'll expand upon a subsection of weapons in the game. You also might notice the mod bullet trails at work, which is adding the trails to the bullets that I'm shooting from my guns. I honestly couldn't care less if this was realistic or not, I just like the way it looks. And if you follow those trails to their target when I actually manage to hit them, you'll see the mod Additive Hit Reactions at play. This mod pairs incredibly well with a very hard playthrough, especially a modded one where you have a very low base health. I found this mod gave me more of a chance against large enemies or groups, as you're able to essentially stun an enemy temporarily. Bullet time from Just Assorted mods also pairs well with this because it allows you to place those shots on the specific body parts that you want to get the reactions that you're looking for. It makes combat more satisfying because you can actually feel like you're hurting or slowing down your enemy, especially when they have large pools of health. This feels much better than just laying into an enemy as they continue to charge for you and ignore the bullets that are lacing their face. At least if they feel like a bullet sponge, they're reacting to the bullets they're taking. This mod actually found its way in as an important element of gameplay, especially like I said on very hard, where I would be shooting one enemy, stun them, move on to another, shoot them a bit, move to cover, come back, finish off one enemy, try and stun another. It helps you break things down a bit systematically when you're engaging groups. And since you're doing all this shooting, you'll probably need a couple repair kits, so I have 2 repair kit relevant mods. The first of the 2 is Weapon Repair Kit Repaired, which simply offers a very high quality replacer. I'm showing you the 2K version, but there's also a 1K version that looks almost the exact same. I would recommend that one because this isn't an item you see sitting out in the game world too often. Usually they're in your inventory anyway where you can't see them. The other mod is for when they're in your inventory, being Repair Kit Clarity, which gives you a breakdown of the actual effects the repair kit will have on the weapon before you use it. Given repair kits can be quite scarce, this allows you to see if it's worth using the kit or not. It feels like at least a portion of this information should have been included in the base game, so if you're somebody who finds themselves repairing a lot, this is a great mod for you. Alright ghouls and Garys, that brings us to the end of another session of New Vegas mods. Hope you enjoyed what I brought to the table. Thank you for watching, thank modders for modding, and thank Todd for todding.